off all these siege tanks now. Those drones really desperately trying to run for their lives. There's Wednesday Night
vVv Gaming. There's a player who loves taking early third bases in this matchup, and especially a third base which has a rich Vespian geyser. If he's able to continue to that wall off and take that third base in the center of the map, really control the map position against Gosuostojiy, I feel like he's got a great chance.
Yeah, one thing I also want to note is that third base almost really has 4 geysers. It's 1 rich Vespian and 2 standard. So that third base could be absolutely huge. We do know vVvRockEr likes that macro style of play, as you mentioned, as vVvRockEr spawning as the purple Protoss here at the 8 o'clock position. Gosuostojiy spawning as the red Zerg, and I gotta believe that vVvRockEr has a specific strategy or a specific setup in mind, and we'll see what Gosuostojiy does in this matchup.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's got a map-specific strategy, like, you know, a certain cheese or a certain timing, but I think he just likes this map for the fact that you're going to be able to get that third and defend it in the center. And one thing we actually didn't really talk about with the rich Vespian geyser is it's going to be far away from your hatchery or nexus, much farther than the regular geyser. So I imagine you're going to want to put 4, maybe even 5 workers into it, so it's not going to be as much of a boost as we've seen rich Vespians on other maps, just because the distance there, it's sort of going to even out, but it's still another gas that you're able to mine. So it's almost like 3 gas, I would say, just because of the distance that it is from the hatchery or nexus.
Yeah, I didn't take into account the distance, but even with that, it's you're able to well, you're going to have maybe 5.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do the calculations.
That's my best guess.
Yeah, I think it's going to be about 5, but even then, the return rate is going to be about the same per probe.
Right.
So yeah, we'll call it a 3 gas and call you right in this instance.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and get into this game. Gosuostojiy opening up with a pool first here. Still no signs of a hatchery. Looks like there is the hatchery trying to be set up now. A Nexus may be coming in very, very quickly by vVvRockEr. Yes, vVvRockEr going in for a Nexus first. A little bit of a gutsy play here as the probe does warp in a pylon, and now it's going to get away. All Gosuostojiy needs to do is train up 2 to 4 Zerglings and now just run away once more.
Yeah, and you basically, your goal as Protoss is to force them to make lings before they're able to get down that hatchery. And the Zerg player wants to dance around, try to do enough damage to that probe to be able to take the hatchery. And vVvRockEr pushing over here to the third is going to deny that hatchery as well. So now these lings going to come out, start working on the pylon, and now we've got wow, look, Gosuostojiy going to take a macro hatch here. I think that's a brilliant move, especially if he goes for the same sort of style as last game, where he goes for those heavily upgraded lings, just a ton of drones off of 2 bases early going, and you're going to get a macro hatch there anyway.
Yeah, so that macro hatch is going to be a little bit of a hurt on economy. You can see that a drone now waiting to grow up and be a hatchery. There you go. Fulfills his lifelong dream of being able to produce more larvae. The probe didn't scout that macro hatch, so it is going to be 3 base or 3 hatch versus whatever vVvRockEr can come up with. vVvRockEr also had to waste 37 resources as he built his gateway in the wrong position, and that was a little bit of a mistake there. We'll see how this is all going to go down. And with one photon cannon on the front door, he may be able to defend against a 2 hatch push, but a 3 hatch push is going to be very, very difficult.
So one thing about this macro hatch is to make it really pay off, it's going to be interesting, as Gosuostojiy is not going to be able to make much but drones and lings at the very start of the map. Very start of the match. He's just got his gas going now, and he might actually have too many larvae here. Since he does have queens out, and I imagine he's really good on injects as well. But vVvRockEr does scout that macro hatch, and I'm not sure where Gosuostojiy is really going to be able to take advantage at the start. He's already up to 22 drones, so basically 1 round of drones off of each of these hatcheries is going to really saturate both of his bases here. So how he uses this macro hatch will be pretty interesting to see.
Yeah, as you mentioned, I think Gosuostojiy should probably perhaps just put down a creep tumor right now. He's got 3 hatcheries. Yeah. He doesn't have as much resource. There's a creep tumor now being spread apart. or spread laid down, and that is a key move, knowing that you don't have the resources to utilize all of your larva and utilizing that energy to get a little bit more map control. Sometimes Zerg players are like, I need larva, I need larva, I need larva, let me inject, let me not miss an inject. But Gosuostojiy, you know, adapting to the situation well, and that's really what I like to see from a high level Zerg play.
Yeah, definitely adapting. You know, sometimes say you're supply blocked and you can't create a ton of units. Injecting right then, maybe not the best opportunity or the best use of your energy, and that's another good time to place down a tumor. We do have a Spinecrawler coming out, sort of in a position to defend against Hellions, but Protoss does not have Hellions, thank God. And instead just going to be more of a wall off against any sort of early Zealot or Stalker pressure. We do have vVvRockEr coming across with an early Zealot, and he did start with a double gateway, so again, Zealot pressure definitely a possibility for him, though that timing is sort of past at this point, but Gosuostojiy needs to defend against it.
Alright, Gosuostojiy does have an Overlord. It is still keeping track. It does see that the 4th gas has not been taken yet by vVvRockEr. A sentry now pushing his way over. The Overlord just going to simply fly up onto the high ground in the main base. The Overlord should not get taken down anytime soon. The sentry with a range of 6 unable to shoot that down there. We are going into that 3rd base that we mentioned that vVvRockEr likes to go, but it's not where we thought the 3rd base would be.
Yeah, I saw him placing that down, and I actually think that this is a better position for this early of a base. If you establish this base at this 8-minute 3rd nexus in the very center of the map, you're so close to the enemy, and you're not really having time to place that secondary wall off like we were talking about in that first game to protect yourself. So instead, he's got to create this wall off here. It'll still funnel units more towards his natural, where he doesn't have to take on much of a wall, as we've got a little bit of cute force field play going on here, as these Lings going to try to get a pylon. Another force field goes down. vVvRockEr doing his best to micro here with just 2 sentries and a Zealot, and they should be able to clean up this remaining Ling force.
Yeah, but losing 1 sentry there, the Zealot gonna try to finish off another sentry, does get walled in, but sentries are making their way over. Sentry with 4 hit points left needs to really hide itself. Is it gonna do a good job? No, it doesn't. There are gonna be some more gateways that are currently unpowered, unable to do anything. Can't even upgrade to warp gates here. And wow, what is going on? A pylon will be warped in after all the Zealots get back here, and we need to see some photon cannons to really protect these gateways, as Zerglings are going to be trying to crash into this in just a moment.
Yeah, there's a ton of Lings out on the field right now, 34, and they could run right into the natural. There's no wall off there. It's got a little bit of an opportunity to, you know, for a run by. And now we see more pressure being put on the natural now. Here comes that run by, perhaps. There are sentries here to force field away. A nice force field's going off, preventing those Lings from getting down into 3rd and forcing them to take on this Zealots, which are +1 Zealots. So they're just ripping apart those Lings. Gosuostojiy making a little bit of a mistake there, throwing away a lot of units and not getting a lot from it.
Yeah, really bad play by Gosuostojiy, perhaps not knowing just the sheer production of vVvRockEr. vVvRockEr with 3 warp gates on the low ground, 2 on the high ground, now getting level 2 weapons upgrade. Twilight Council also researching Blink as well. And now vVvRockEr also warping in some Zealots over here at the 3rd base. Not quite sure why. It's not like they're going to be able to do very much of anything behind this wall here. Perhaps adding in an additional photon cannon would be a better use, as we now see a double expand from Gosuostojiy. Yeah. A good response, but I believe vVvRockEr should be able to get up on these bases and punish, especially if Gosuostojiy does too many rounds of drones.
Yeah, a lot of times Zergs that just stay on 2 base for a while almost have to take a 3rd and 4th at the same time, really to catch up and get back ahead of your opponent. Obviously, the 2 base gives you a little bit of a tech advantage, as we see a ton of Infestors about to come out for Gosuostojiy, 7 of them on the way. So he was able to get those up before he established his 3rd and 4th, but now he's got to get these 3rd and 4th bases saturated, because a big 3-base timing from vVvRockEr could be around the corner. We do have a robotics facility being added by vVvRockEr. He's also working on his +2 weapons, so I guess it'll be a few more minutes before he decides to push out. Right now, just doing his best to defend these early 3 bases, and 12 minutes, fully saturated 3 bases by vVvRockEr. Right now, he's just going to macro up and then hit some sort of timing.
Alright, vVvRockEr did set up a proxy pylon over here on the bottom right-hand side of the map. Infestors are crawling their way over, and Gosuostojiy could be crashing in on this party in just a moment. There is a weakest link. This wall-off is not complete. There's actually room for Zerglings to run by there, and the Zerglings are going to be just getting shot down by the photon cannons. It does take 2 shots there, but I believe this one photon cannon is a little bit too far away, as the Zerglings are now going to try to perhaps press in here. Here you go. There's some damage. Infested Terrans now being launched inside, and the Infested Terrans actually blocking the photon cannons, as they are now going to get focused down.
And a nice blink in here by Rocker. He knows he's going to take some damage here, but he's going to take a ton of Infestors as a price as he's focusing down those Infestors with that blink. The Infested Terran doing a ton of damage to the units of Rocker back in his base, but he is just chasing down these Infestors. There's just 1 Infestor left on the field. There were 7 before, and Gosuostojiy did not do the damage he needed to there. He traded a lot of high gas units and a lot of Lings for, not much, just a cannon or 2, and then some gateway units from Rocker.
Yeah, I really like that. I really like that play by Rocker. Rocker blinking after those units, taking down a couple of Infestors. But now we see Gosuostojiy. Oh, look at it. Okay, Gosuostojiy does have 4 drones on gas. I believe that is enough of a saturation. So it is going to be 4 drones on gas as opposed to the typical 3.
Yeah, now we just see the Hive about to finish, so Gosuostojiy rushing to tier 3 as well. But will it pay off in time to defend against this big push coming from Rocker? He's got a Warp Prism, which he's going to do a little bit of harassment with in the main. Gosuostojiy already doing a great job splitting up units. He's got Queens and Lings over here to defend, but at the same time, Rocker pushing into this 3rd and the 4th. He's got an Observer here. He can blink up into this 3rd base in the center of the map if he wants. Instead, he's just going to be taking down that high yield gas. Now we've got the Zealots doing their best to take on these Lings, but the Lings have a great surround, and they're aided by the Fungal Growth. It looks like all the Zealots will go down, but these Stalkers on the high ground basically have the Zerg army out of position. They're going to take down a hatchery and a ton of drones here, just laying around waiting to be killed. Gosuostojiy is going to take his revenge on the Zealots and Sentries on the low ground, but Rock's going to have these Blink Stalkers doing a ton of damage, taking down a mining base for Gosuostojiy.
All right, so yeah, I had not realized how vulnerable that one high ground location is, especially for Stalkers. So Rocker really capitalizing on this. Oh, did not use Smart Blink. 2 Stalkers now, where are they going to go? Simply going to leave a drone to lie, and blinking away, taking down some Overlords, as we now see Stalkers going into the 3rd base, essentially. Infestors now making their way over. The Stalkers going to try to focus down. The Stalkers are unable to blink right now because of Fungal. Now focusing down a couple of these Infestors. Infestors are getting destroyed, and wow, Rocker getting in a couple more Infestor kills, trading very efficiently, at least for gas, as Gosuostojiy says GG.
Down to 62 supply. He was down to 26 Harvesters against the 89 of Rocker, and Rocker was just magnificent in that game, evening things up 2-2 on Wednesday Night Starcraft.